The following program contains names, places, and events that have been anonymized or fictionalized for the purposes of protection and safety. The following program is provided for entertainment purposes only, and any commentary from the hosts are strictly conjecture and should not be held as making any definitive statements about the truth or identity of any particular individuals or circumstances. If you or a loved one are involved in an abusive relationship, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 for support.
Welcome.
Happy Monday.
To the Dating Detectives. I don't know what accent that was.
Happy dating. It sounded like a cartoon accent.
Yeah, it was kind of vampire-y.
I liked it. I like vampire. I liked it a lot.
Thanks.
So we have almost a girl. You guys. When you say you guys, it can be guys or girls, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. So we have a two-parter for you, but it's a doozy. Why do I always say that? But it's true.
No, it is. We're going to do the dogfish debrief after the end. This is a long relationship. They were together like 10 years. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I will warn fellow romantics that it's really nice for a long time.
Yeah. And you're going to be like, why is this on the Dating Detectives? And then you're going to find out why. And then you're going to be sad. Our guest is really amazing, though.
Yeah, Kylie was so sweet.
You're going to love her. Also, don't forget, you guys, if you're not on the Patreon yet, it's only $5 a month to join. And I just want to say how much we love and appreciate all of our Patreoners, all of our listeners, but we love when you're on the Patreon. And
it just helps us with everything. And exciting, we added a book club to Patreon, and the book we're reading this month it's about narcissism. It's by Dr. Ramani Durvasula, and she is coming to our book club meeting. So we're going to get to ask her questions.
That's going to be amazing because we always talk about narcissism and narcissists, but her book specifically is about the victims of narcissistic people.
And healing from them.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to realize just in reading it that it applies to a lot more than I even realized.
Yeah.
This episode, for sure, in my humble opinion.
And there's so many of our listeners who really relate to these stories. And so I think that it'd be a great opportunity to come and join us there. So join the Patreon. We'll link it in the show notes. Yeah,
dates and stuff. We're figuring it out with her, where her people are talking to our people.
Yeah. My guy will call your guy. And is there any other news?
Thank you for Spotify Wrapped. If anybody listened to us and had us on our list.
Yeah, if we were on your Spotify Wrapped, thank you so much, like Hannah said. And we went to the Spotify Wrapped party. Kesha performed, Normani performed, and then Haim did a DJ set. It was really fun. It was beautiful. It was really cool. So much fun. I'm actually in LA with Hannah and Molly right now.
Which is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Wait, we have a surprise.
I just got this email just now, and I just think.
Okay, guys, a surprise has just happened. Molly, our producer, has handed us a laptop and said to read this email, and we don't know what it is.
It literally just came in. It says, "Hi, Mackenzie, Hannah, and Molly. I'm writing this to express my immense love, admiration, and most of all, gratitude for the difference you guys have made for me and are definitely making for so many people who might be stuck in circumstances they might not even realize aren't normal. While I'd stumbled upon Mackenzie's YouTube channel and had been hearing the fun PI stories for quite some time, I only came across the Dating Detectives podcast earlier this year. Through hearing people talk about situations and personality traits I could unfortunately relate to, so aptly coined as dogfishing by you guys, I gathered the courage to finally step out of my abusive, dead-end marriage, still alive. I count my blessings every day for getting out while I did, because looking back now, I wasn't too far from definitely being dead by now, by either harming myself or getting into some physical altercation with my ex-husband. Oh, my heart just shattered. I don't say this lightly, but you guys really did save my life. And even though the road ahead to a complete break from it is all a long one, I know I'll make it, that I'm not alone, and that it's not my fault, thanks to you guys. I'm not ready to tell my story yet, especially since I'm yet to get over the shame of being gullible enough to fall for all that I did. While I hope to get back to you with the details someday, the gratitude I have for you guys could absolutely not wait. Please know that even if you do absolutely nothing else but just sip a margarita, sunbathing on a beach for the rest of your life, you've made more difference and have bettered the world more than most people on earth ever could. Sending you love, blessings, and good vibes from a couple oceans over."
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. That is thank you so much. That means the world to us.
Are you kidding?
There's that sense of community I'm always talking about, you guys. This is why it's so important to connect with one another and share our stories, and just know that you're not alone whenever you go through these situations. Like we share on the show with our guests come on and, share what happened to them, and you don't realize that so many other people can relate to you and you are not alone.
And that thank you goes to the guests too.
Yeah, yes, 100%. Because of you guys sharing your stories on our platform and letting other people know that they're not alone, you're making a difference too. So this is how we empower one another. Whew,
That's wow.
Thank you so much for writing
you.
that. We really appreciate it so much, and you've touched our hearts. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, this community, I have no words. And the newest member of our community is Kylie, our guest today, who will do the same.
Yeah. Let's talk to Kylie. We're excited to hear from Kylie. Kylie,
hi.
Hello. Tell us your story. We're excited to hear it. I don't know if we're excited or not, but we're excited that you're here.
Right? Yeah, it's a bit of a sad one for sure. So when I was little, always wanting to be that girl that found her prince, like Disney movies, fantasizing about that. And I've always been a hopeless romantic. And I even used to play like dress up and act out these scenarios. And I was just so excited to grow up. And I always thought too, like I would just fall in love with a high school sweetheart, one and done type thing. And we'd be happy for like 80 years. That was like my goal.
Parents like that? Did they have a love story like that?
No.
Okay.
No. And I think that's why I grew up without my dad in the picture. And when I was 6, my mom married, and that gentleman didn't like me so much. I think that's where that obsession with finding a man to kind of rescue me really even became much more important and bigger in my thoughts, because I'm like, how does this guy not love a little 6-year-old girl, like how come? Like it just, I don't get it,
I don't either.
So yeah, so that was the early stages of me obsessing over love. In high school, I always had boyfriends and everything. And I think I always put a lot of stake on it, right? Like that it was like, this was the one, even though we're like 14. Those never turned out so good. More often than not, I cared more than they did. And I would do more than they would. I'm a people pleaser. And I think that stems from that, just like me wanting to make the other person so happy that they'll love me, So,
girl, I feel that from the bottom of my
toes and everything.
Yes.
Because you're like, well, that's my use. That's my value. If
exactly
bringing something, then I'm nothing. Ugh.
Exactly. So throughout high school, I had a few like long-term boyfriends, and none of them ended up working out. They weren't so great. And then I had the one sort of fresh out of high school that I thought was going to be the one. I was like, oh, this is it. He was even talking about what he was going to do when he decided to propose to me, everything. So I'm thinking like it's happening, right?
Oh my gosh.
Even though we were just 20, just 20.
Okay, 20.
Mm-hmm. And he ended up cheating with another friend of mine. Oh. Yeah, they ended up getting married, everything.
Oh, that must have been hard.
It was because I lost the friend also, you know.
No.
So that was, so that was really hard. It took me a number of years actually to really get over that. And in that time, I had dated a little bit, tried the online thing, and it wasn't great. So I ended up meeting someone through mutual friends. And we dated for a while, but that relationship also ended really badly with infidelity. And he ended up being really controlling and mean in the end. So that really hurt me. After that, I was a pretty broken person. I had enough of relationships. I'd kind of sworn everyone off at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of time just cooped up in my room. My roommates, I lived with 2 people at the time. They were very supportive and stuff, but it was hard. So I went through a real dark depression then and lost a ton of weight, wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping, wasn't getting out. And they just got increasingly worried about me. This night comes up and my roommate, she comes upstairs and says, you know what, enough of this.
you're a great girl. You can't keep doing this. We're going to take you out. You just need to get out of the house. We need to put a nice dress on and let's just go do something. And I was like, honestly, I don't think I can. I can't. And she goes, nope, there's an Elvis show at your favorite bar and we're going.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
Elvis.
yeah, see, I'm a huge
Old-timey.
Elvis fan.
We love it.
Yeah.
He is actually like everything. Like I have pictures of him all over my house. I have tattoos of him everywhere. And ever since I was like 5, 6, he's just been like, I always wanted to go to Graceland. I actually am born on August 16th. So that's the day he died.
Oh, wow.
So he was always on the TV and they'd always do fancy Elvis specials and things around my birthday. And so he was just always kind of present in my life. My uncle had a bunch of CDs too. And I remember going through them and he had this Elvis 31 greatest hits. And I remember listening to it and just like, wow, you know.
What's your favorite Elvis song?
My favorite is If I Can Dream. Every time I hear that one, I cry.
Oh.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's at the end of the 68 special. And it's like the first time he stood up for himself to the Colonel. So it's like really special when you hear it, kind of know that backstory.
I love this.
about-
You know.
Oh, yeah. I know pretty much everything there is to know about Elvis now. And being a younger person and loving Elvis, it can be a little hard to find people that share in that passion quite as
Sure.
intensely as you do, you know? So when she's like, hey, we're gonna go to this Elvis event with you, I was kind of like, oh, you know, because I didn't get an opportunity to go to a lot. So we go to this bar, I'm dressed up, everything. I'm really trying to put on like this
Happy face.
yes,
Yeah.
even though I was just like glaring, I think, at everybody. I didn't look very approachable, I'm sure. So we order our drinks and they're very fancy tiki drinks. This is a really cool 60s vintage tiki bar. And the drinks are very expensive, very strong, very big. So I'm sitting there with my big old fishbowl of a drink, just kind of enjoying the ambiance best I can. And there's 2 Elvis performers that were going to perform that night. And they both come out and, you know, we're clapping, carrying on for them and whatever, still not thinking anything of it. Because to me, the impersonator side of the Elvis world, I was never really into. It was just kind of lame, not to be, but, you know. So I wasn't like, oh, wow, when he came out or anything, right? So the first opener performs and like he was fine. And then the second one comes out and that's Peter. Yeah.
Peter, writing it down. Peter the Elvis impersonator.
So I'm actually a little bit taken back by him because he's actually doing these little things that Elvis did on stage that I find a lot of impersonators don't really nail down because they're not as precise and I guess studying him and really knowing him. And so as a big fan, I'm noticing the way he's holding the microphone. I'm noticing the way he's doing his lips and certain facial expressions. I'm like, oh yeah, that's from that show and that's from this show. And it was kind of cool to see somebody really perfecting the little things. So I was enjoying his set. And at one point, there's more of a romantic song. And, you know, Elvis was known for doing this. He'd walk around the audience and he'd shake hands and he'd kiss the ladies. And it was the whole thing. So he starts making his way around the room. And he comes up to me and he starts to sing.
Oh, Peter.
I'd be done.
So, you know, I was kind of laughing a bit because I'm like, yeah, you know, this is what
Yeah.
you do. You know, this is just what they do. But I was also kind of excited about it. I was feeling like, hey, you know, like this is nice. So, you know, I'm batting my eyelashes. I'm kind of eating it up a little bit. And in this process, ends up spilling my drink.
Oh,
also.
no.
So my like $20 super expensive giant tiki drink. So he ends up ordering me another one. We laugh about it and then he carries on with the show. So me and my friends live on the outskirts of Toronto. So after those first 2 sets, we ended up leaving, but there was a second half to the show. So we end up leaving and a few days later, I get a message from him on Facebook.
Wait, okay.
He did the sleuthy thing. He found
Yes.
you.
Yes.
How did he find you?
So I found out later that I guess I'd replied to attending the event on Facebook.
Oh.
So I guess he combed through everyone who responded and found my picture.
Oh.
Kylie!
Yeah.
Good for
yes.
PETA.
So he messages me to say, sorry about spilling your drink, which I thought was really sweet. That, it was sad that he was actually going to come and talk to me at the end of the show, but we
you
were
left.
gone. Yeah. And then he proceeded to ask me, how did you like my performance? And did you have a good time? So we small talked back and forth a little bit. And then he lets me know that he's doing another show coming up in my area, and he's going to recreate Elvis's 68 comeback special from start to finish. And I thought, well, that's a really cool idea. And he said, so if you don't have plans, you should come. And I just went, yeah, sure, fine. And still me being in that zone where I just was not interested in anybody.
Yeah.
I don't think I was realizing he was kind of trying to start something with me. I just
Yeah.
thought like, hey, this nice guy is just trying to sell me tickets to his Elvis show,
Oh. I bet he loved you because you were probably like such a purist. You're like, yeah, I was fine. I mean, your hip gyration was almost the right angle, but
Right.
you did better than the other guy. Like
Yes.
you were probably his
Yeah.
dream girl.
Yes, I think so. And I think because I pointed those things out, we talked a bit about that. I think he was sort of surprised. So, I think the conversation's kind of done at that point. But a couple days later, he messages me again, and he's like, "Hey, so any news about coming to that show at all?" And I said, "Well, actually, I am off work, so yeah, like I think I will come. How much are the tickets?" And he's like, "No, I'm asking you as my guest. I would like you to come as my date." And I was kind of like, "Oh," like it's like I was
Okay.
not picking up what he was dishing out at all. And then also being me, and whenever a guy messages you on Facebook, if you're not friends, you want to go in and kind of
Check out their
see their
profile.
yeah,
Hannah calls it sleuthing,
Sleuthing.
not stalking.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to call it stalking.
right.
But it's research. It's important. It's
for math.
self-preservation.
It's for math. Or
It
science.
is.
It's for science.
It's for science and math and the humanities.
Exactly. So I did that, and I did see some posts with a girl and him, but they weren't super recent, but they were within a couple months. So they were fairly high on his timeline. And I was like, does this guy have a girlfriend? But why would he be messaging me? And I thought, well, I don't know. Like, it would be weird, him performing, being in the public eye and stuff like that if he did. And then he was asking me to come to shows. And
Yeah, like there's no way he would do that if he was with somebody.
yeah. So I thought, well, I don't know the full story there, but it was a few months prior. So you know what? It's probably fine. So I message him back and I say, yes, I'd love to. And in that meantime, leading up to this show, it was kind of fun. I got this invigorated. Maybe this is an answered prayer here.
Mm-hmm.
Because how perfect and weird would it be if I end up with an Elvis after all
would
these
be
hard
so perfect.
relationships?
Yeah.
Right? Like after all my struggles, to end up with a guy that couldn't be more perfect for me. Even my family was saying when they asked me when I was going on this date, I remember my grandma calling and because they knew I was having a hard time and I was getting to that point where everyone around me is getting married and having kids. And I'm like, what about me? So I remember her calling and being like, so you're going on a date. What does he do? And me not wanting to tell her because I was like, everyone's going to laugh at me because it's like, it's too crazy. So leading up to it, yeah, it was just kind of exciting because even though I had been so hurt by Felix that I don't know, something was really happening within that I was like, maybe this is it. Like, even though we hadn't gone on the date yet, but just how everything kind of lined up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard not to get your hopes up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I was already so hopeful. But again, like now, because I'd been so hurt, I was like really determined, though, to take things extra slow and just be really vigilant and like
Careful,
looking
yeah.
at everything. Yeah. So he tells me before the show that I'm going to be let in early, that I'm going to get this VIP treatment. I'm going to be able to watch part of the rehearsal before the show starts, everything. So I'm super excited about that. I get to this venue and this guy who works at the venue opens up the door and goes, "Are you Kylie?" And I'm just like, oh, wow, this is kind of cool. It feels like the real deal.
You're like
know?
VIP, legit.
Yes, yes. So he walks me in the back door and takes me into the auditorium. And there is Peter on stage with a full band, dancers, there's screens. It's way more big and professional and exciting than the little tiki bar show was.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
this is like the real deal. Yeah. So I'm thinking then, this ain't no average Elvis impersonator. Like, what's up with this? To have a full production and stuff.
Yeah,
I was
he's
like, this
legit.
isn't the guy that just sings at the fair, you know, or
my
at like
God.
a birthday party.
This is
like,
not the guy at 6 a.m. In Vegas.
Yeah.
yeah, just like wandering around. No, not at all. Like, this is something else. And he sees me walk in and he jumps off the stage, stops singing, walks up to me, hugs me, and he's like, I'm so glad you're here.
He's making a show of it. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm feeling like, oh my God, is this like what it feels like to be famous? So I sit down and I watch them rehearse and things are going great. It's really cool to see the inner workings. And then before he goes backstage to really get dressed and do his thing for the show, he tells me, by the way, I don't want to freak you out at all, but
Oh boy.
because it's one of my first big shows here that I'm self-producing, everyone important to me is basically going to be here.
Oh.
You're going to meet the whole family.
Exactly. It was his mom, his grandma, his best friends, his mentor, because he had a mentor actually that taught him how to do Elvis.
So you're already at the show and then he tells you everybody's going to be
Yes.
here?
Yes.
Why didn't he tell you before? Because he didn't want you not to come.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably.
Also, it's like, I don't know how do you feel about that? I don't mind meeting people super early because I'd rather weed people out.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And that's kind of what popped into my head. Because at first I was like, oh, dear God, like, this is weird. And I can't run now. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, I'm already
screw
here.
You, I'm
and
out,
like,
goodbye.
You know, you'll come out on stage with the empty seat in the front row, you know, like I'm like, I can't do that. But also I thought, you know what, this might be a good opportunity to see about that potential girlfriend or find out or kind of just sniff out things and feel out the scene, you know? So I told him it was no problem, no big deal. I'm excited. Good luck. Have a great show, all that. So he comes out and he does his show. And during the whole show, it felt amazing because he kept coming over to me, kept singing to me. You could tell that during certain things, he was looking over to me to see if I got them, you know?
I love
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it felt like I was being performed to, like, just me. Even though there was hundreds of people in this auditorium, I felt like the only girl in the world. And for a moment, because oftentimes fans of Elvis describe that as well, that he had this ability to make you feel like you were the only fan, you were the only person in the room.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I kind of get that now. So I was just enamored with this. And it was funny. There was a gentleman sitting next to me and he kept kind of looking over at me as well. So he knew like there was something up. And I had blue suede high heel shoes on that night.
Oh, stop. I love it. Blue suede shoes.
Right? I thought I would dress the part for sure. And this guy goes, hey, blue suede shoes. And I look at him and he goes, you must be the girlfriend.
Oh,
because he cannot take his eyes off you. Right. And this is like our first date. So I'm kind of like, like, I just sort of laugh it off. So he finishes the show and we're all out in the lobby. And this is my first experience too, seeing how a professional Elvis impersonator, or they're actually called ETAs if they're like really good. Like if they're world renowned.
What does that stand for?
They're called Elvis tribute artists because they're a lot more professional than your average, like I said, guy that kind of shows up at
that gets it at Spirit Halloween and
exactly. So that was my first glimpse into this ETA world because I saw there's a professional table set up at the end. He's got photos, people are buying them, he's signing them, they're taking pictures with him. So it's really cool to see everything. And I'm just standing there kind of taking it all in. And then after a little while, he can see that I'm probably feeling a little awkward though, because I'm this date, but for a while I'm kind of like pressed up against the wall, just watching all these other women take pictures with him.
Did you feel jealous or anything? Or were you like, oh, this is cool?
At first, it was weird because I've experienced cheating in the past and stuff and jealousy a little bit, and insecurities being young. I definitely did. But then when I saw how happy they were and also too how old they were,
You were like, yeah, this is
but
fine.
You're like, I'm not worried.
yeah, I mean, the majority of these women are, 60, 70, 80 years old. They're there with their families. To see that it brought them joy.
So your logic kind of kicked in.
Were you thinking about Priscilla? Were you like, this is what she felt like?
Yes. And the times where, like, so many Elvis footage, she'd be in the audience and he'd introduce her and like, all the fanfare around her and stuff too, and how it must have felt also her kind of being his main person, but also on the outskirts looking in and having to share him with all these people. So it was going through my mind of like, is this something I can do? Is this going to be a world that I want to be in? It was still fairly early to know, but those thoughts were definitely running through my head. After he's finished with a bit of that portion, he gets up and he comes over and he hugs me and, asks me about the show and asks me about how everything feels and being around all this. So we're talking. And in that moment, his mom and grandmother walk up and he introduces me to them. They shake my hand. They're so kind, so sweet. It was not awkward. It was not weird. They were just lovely.
Green flags.
Yeah.
It's
Yes,
so many green
exactly.
flags.
So many. That's all there were. His friends, too. A couple of his really close friends were there. I met them as well. Same thing. His mentor was just as lovely. It just felt like home from the beginning.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah. So then after everything dies down at this show, he goes, I don't want it to end here. It's still pretty early. Do you want to go for all you can eat late night sushi with me?
Hell yes.
And so we go to this all you can eat late night sushi spot. And we sat there and we just talked and got to know each other and talked about our shared passions and all about Elvis. And I think he was really surprised at how much I did know and that I was a real fan. And I'd been to Graceland already.
You
and
impressed him. He liked it.
Yes. And I had all my Elvis tattoos already. Like it wasn't just,
You were the real deal.
She had receipts.
Yeah.
And what did we learn about him on this first date?
Yes. So sharing and all of that, I also found out that he grew up in a very similar situation as me. He didn't have a dad in his life either. And he was raised predominantly by his grandparents and mother. And that was the exact same situation. So I thought that was kind of amazing that we can bond over, not having a dad in our lives and we can get each other and like what comes from that. I also found out that some of his extended family lived in a really small town in the prairies that my family grew up in.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Lots in common.
It was so weird because even when he said it, he went, "Oh, you're not going to know the town." And I'm like, "You're joking. That's the same place. What are the chances?" So we leave the sushi place and he's like, "Hey, do you want to come to my place?" And then I was like, "Whoa," He goes, No, it's not like that. We can even sit out in my truck if you want. You don't even have to come in. I just want to keep talking to you. This is the best conversation. This is amazing." And he's like, "I don't know how you're feeling, and I'm like, "Actually, I very much am feeling the same way here."
I like this.
So we talk all night. He finds out too that I was into WWE, and that blew his mind because he's obsessed with it also. So he was surprised to find out I had been to WrestleMania even. Like I knew my stuff.
I bet he was so turned on. He's like, she loves everything that I do.
I think that especially because like it's not super common for women to be really into it.
Well, that's a lot in common. Elvis, same town that's really, really small. WWE, like that's a lot in common.
Yes. And just love for like the retro lifestyle and clothing. Like he dressed vintage as well. He
Same
always
kind of
wore
family,
like 70s like shirts and he had the sideburns. He had like a look, and same with me. So we stay up all night talking, laughing, sharing. Sun's coming up. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm supposed to work at like 8 a.m. So I call in sick. And he's like, "If you're going to call in sick, we should go for breakfast." And I was like, "You know what? hell yeah, let's go for breakfast. So we even went to IHOP that morning. So this was the best and longest and most magical first date like of all time.
I like it.
Oh yeah. So it didn't take long to really fall for him.
No, I'm already in love with him.
Right.
Would you say you couldn't help falling in love with him?
Exactly. That's exactly it. I tried to play it cool though. We really did take things slow. I really made sure that if this is as good as I think it is, I don't want to mess it up. And if this is what it is, taking it slow is going to be more than okay. You'll be fine with it. And it was. He was never pushy. He was extremely attentive and caring, and he would always text back, and he'd always call, and he'd always make good on his promises. Everything was really lining up for me. I was just thinking after all my failed relationships and everything, for this to feel so good. It was the first time I truly, deep, deep in my heart was like, this is it, Sarah. Like, this is it. And it just got better from there. He would take me to concerts and he'd plan these fun dates. We'd go to retro cocktail bars and he would plan these little mini trips to go to places that Elvis had been. We'd seek out tiki bars in other cities and go to them because that was kind of our thing. That's where we met. And
How old was he again? Is he your age?
yes, 4
Okay.
months older, actually.
Okay.
So this is about, 25.
Great.
We both would have been. Yeah. I'm just on cloud nine. But then there was that little voice in the back of my head that was like, okay, I was almost waiting for the axe to fall because I'd never been
The other
loved
shoe
the right
has
way.
to drop.
Yeah,
Like
it's too good to be true.
It's too good to be true. How long were y'all together and doing these really great things and like romance and whirlwind?
Oh, quite a few months for sure.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And that's why after a few months, I was kind of like, what's going on here?
This is too good. Like, what's
he's
happening?
nice to me, and that's not a thing I'm used to.
No, that's me. And everybody's like, why are you so negative? And I'm like, because everyone's an asshole.
Yeah.
That's exactly
You don't
right.
trust.
If
You're
it's
like,
too good to be true, you're like, what? Something is wrong.
Yeah,
I
what are
feel
you-
you,
what are you trying
Kylie.
to
I feel
get?
you 100. So many people are going to relate to this, and people are going to be like, why don't women trust, or why don't people trust others? And it's like because everybody's a jerk.
yeah.
Exactly. And when you've been disappointed so many times, that's the thing.
You're
It's
waiting
not
for
even
it.
negativity. You're protecting yourself too,
Yeah.
because it's just like, it's so painful to go through it over and over that you'll just do just about anything to not have to again, So you do become jaded and
Cynical, of course.
So when you heard this voice in the back of your head, did you start looking for something?
I did. I started trying to make excuses. Like I was even talking to my roommates and being like, I think I got to break up with him because
It's
like,
too good. Something's wrong.
yes, like there's got to be an issue. And they're like, Kylie, you can't do this because we've seen you go through such hell. Don't throw away a good thing because of the insecurities. Like not everybody are those people. Just keep going. It hasn't been that long.
Yeah.
Like just see where this goes.
Did you talk to him about your past and insecurities?
I did. In fact, we were on this little trip one time and we were at this really cool tiki bar. We were sharing a volcano bowl and it's like the big one that's on fire and it's got multiple straws,
Oh my God.
We were having the best time.
She loves giant drinks.
Yeah.
Go big or go home.
A giant drink. Yeah. That's
She drinks in bulk.
I like
yeah. So we're sitting there, we're just having the best time. And that's when, for the first time, I really opened up about what I had gone through and even stuff with like, my stepdad and things and just that feeling of not being wanted for so long and never being
good enough.
the one they choose.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, and he seemed to really understand. And he talked a little bit about his past as well, but he was never, this was another green flag, in my opinion. He was never rude or
never talked down about his
never
exes.
spoke poorly about his previous
That
girlfriend.
is a green flag. We always say the red flag is when they say my ex is crazy.
Yeah, and blame them
Exactly. So that was one thing I was really going into this. Like, I'm going to make sure that, I kind of get him talking a little bit.
Yeah.
Not to really drum up the past, but to just see how he words things about her. And he talked more about the one that I thought he was still with when we started talking. And he said that they dated for a couple of years and she was just never supportive of his career. And it was always a point of contention with them. And So he just needed to follow his heart and dreams and just let that go. And they tried to be friends for a bit. And that's one of the posts I saw was her sending him something, but they weren't together and they hadn't been for a while. And so it all added up for me. And that really stuck in my mind. That really was like, if I'm going to be with this man, I have to then make sure that he knows that I'm with him in his career 150%.
Yeah.
If that was something that really hurt him, I want to make sure that he never feels that way with me. I really took that to heart when he told me. And then he got emotional for a moment. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. And he told me, he goes, I do want to tell you something, though.
Oh, here we go.
He goes, I have cheated before.
Okay.
And I went, oh, like, I didn't freak out there. But in my head, I was like, what do I do with this now?
Yeah.
Do I vilify this great person?
Or appreciate that he's telling the truth.
Exactly. Or the fact that he's emotional too, like you said, and he's outright telling me, like, he didn't need to tell me. I would never have known.
Yeah.
So the fact that he did, I was like, wow, like maybe he really learned.
I wonder if he was
mistake.
Feeling you out by saying that.
Right. Now I think so.
When did the cheating happen on this girl, this last relationship?
That's what he made it sound like. Yes. And it sounded like it was just a one and done. He really regretted it. And that's why he felt the need to tell me, because he just wants to live a better life and, put that behavior behind him. And he said it was hard being an Elvis at a young age. He had started doing it when he was 18.
Oh, wow.
So being 18 and having all these women showing you all this attention and everything. So he said it was hard to navigate when he first started, and he'd made mistakes and stuff. And I'm thinking, yeah, man, if you're like 18 to 20 years old and you put on a jumpsuit and all these women are throwing themselves at you, you're going to be pretty excited and you're probably going to,
It's understandable, not justifiable, but understandable.
Yeah, you can write it.
Yeah, you can be like, oh, he was young.
Yeah, I also there's different kinds of cheating. There's the people that do it once and then they break up the next day and realize like there's affairs that are ongoing. I'm not saying any of it is okay, but I could see how you'd be able to rationalize like, he's remorseful or changed.
So I decided after talking it out with a few different people, and everyone was like, really think about it. He could be changed. Don't hold him accountable to something that happened maybe years ago that you don't know anything about. Exactly. They're like, this is a green flag too, So I really thought about it after talking with them. And I thought, you know what, you're right. Like everything that he has shown me has been amazing. He's not given me a single reason. We're just going to put this behind us and let's just keep going and see where this goes. So we're together. Everything's great. 2 years and he finally asked me to move in with him.
Okay.
And I am so excited.
And everything's going well.
Yeah.
There's no reason to, okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had traveled together. We'd already gone to Graceland together.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say propose. I'm glad that you were taking it slow. No,
she really took it slow. Good for you. Okay.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought. Like, I thought we were really doing everything right. Considering what I'd been through, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't acting on impulse like I had in the past, But at this point, we'd already been to Graceland together. We'd already vacationed together, just living this amazing life and him performing and me meeting all these people. Like I'm just thrust into this Elvis world that initially was very positive because it's this community of people that all love the same thing. And you're getting together to share in that and carry on his legacy. So I just thought it was the greatest thing in the world. So I say yes, we're going to move in together. This is the next step here. So I'm in the process still of moving in. Mostly everything's moved in. And he comes home from work one day because living in Canada, the Elvis scene isn't as huge as it is in the US. There's a few things that happen throughout the year, but you can't do it full time like you can there.
Right. So what else does he do?
He did have to have a full-time desk job, so to speak, and kind of
do 8 to 5 Monday through Friday job.
Exactly.
Side
They're like, wow, guess what Peter does at night? Yeah, right. Elvis. That's fun.
Yeah, right. So he comes back from work one afternoon and he tells me he's got this job offer to perform as Elvis at a theater in Vegas.
Okay. Like a full time or like a one time?
This is a 3-month stint.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, that is amazing. I'm so proud of him. I'm making sure that he knows that I'm so proud of him. And I said, okay, well, how do we go about this? Is there a contract we need to read? Like, let's talk about this. And he's like, well, I already signed the papers.
I'm sorry. What? Like, okay. Just all willy nilly. Like, we've been together
Didn't
2
want
years.
to mention it.
My opinion doesn't matter. It's fine.
Yeah, as I'm like moving in, like I got boxes, like, oh,
Yeah,
like, oh,
what's
by
the
the way, I'm
plan?
leaving now to go to Vegas for 3 months, and I wasn't going to discuss it with you first.
Rude? Oh my God. Okay.
It was so weird to me because I'm like,
that's
everything has
weird.
been so picture perfect. This didn't seem like something that the person I was with would do.
Yeah.
So it really hit me out of left field, and he could tell I was really taken back and really quite upset about it.
Not because of the job, but because he didn't tell you, obviously.
Exactly. And I tried to make that clear too. I'm like, look, I would have said yes to go. I would have been like, go.
Can I be included in this relationship, please?
Exactly. This is us now. It's not
Yeah.
you and me. Like when we've chosen to move in together, we've been together for like going on like 2 years at this point. Like it's crazy to not include me in this big life decision.
Yeah.
So he apologized. He chalked it up to it just being like excitement. He'd worked so long and so hard to get a full-time Elvis gig that it just escaped him, and he knew I'd be supportive. Like everything was easily explained away. So we had to have the hard talk though of where do I fit into this?
Yeah.
Like it's 3 months. And he's like, well, I'm going to go.
Yeah, that part's established, sir.
So what about me? Where am I going to be? What's happening here? And he goes, well, it's only 3 months. So I don't want you to have to quit your job. I don't want us to have to give up our apartment. None of those things since it's only 3 months. So I'm thinking I can go. You can stay here. And then about halfway through, maybe you can come and visit for a couple weeks. Does that sound okay? And I was a little bit bummed, but I
Yeah.
also understood housing market's crazy. If we give up this apartment, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, especially if it's just temporary. If it's for 3
Yeah.
months and then that's it, like I still want to have my job. So it really ended up making sense to me. But I was a little crushed because I'm like, you get to go to Vegas and live this rock star life. And I'm going to be stuck here working. And then I told him too, we're going to be in separate countries, not to be the jealous type. And I said, and I haven't been, and I've really trusted you and you've never given me a reason. But like, that's awkward for me. Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
you're doing or who you're with or who you're going to be performing with or.
That's I think that's healthy, normal.
Totally.
I think that's not weird to feel jealous or some type of way about that.
No, the
at
fact
all.
that he's cheated before, not that you're like using it against him, but it's also just you've had a past with cheating. He's had a past
Exactly.
with cheating on people. A lot would come up.
Exactly. So he assured me, he's like, I will call you every day. I will update you all the time. He just made it sound like it was going to be totally, totally fine. So, like I said, really wanting to show my support and be there for him. And because I was excited for him, I knew how hard he had worked. He'd really been trying to get to that higher stage, and this was a really big opportunity for him. So, in Vegas of all places too, like that's like a mecca
That's a big
for
deal,
Elvis,
yeah.
Oh.
It's like, yeah, that's where you want to be,
You made it.
So he goes. It was the hardest thing I have done up until that point was to take a step back and let him go. And also too, because I didn't know the fate of the relationship. Up until then, it was so good and it was going in this direction that I thought it was going. But it's like, okay, if he moves to another country, maybe I'll never hear from him again. I don't know. I'm kind of leaving it up to the universe at this point and just having to see where it goes. And I didn't like that feeling. I knew that, but I just kind of had to go with the flow.
But did the trajectory of the relationship give you confidence with him going? Like, were you like, this is okay because the relationship has gone really well, so I'm really counting on that?
Yeah, it did. It really did. And the way he treated me, like I said, he never made me feel hidden. I was always at the forefront. He always posted about me on his Facebook. He always talked about me and how we met in his shows. And I knew there were going to be other people around him and some of them that I actually knew.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me some comfort as well. Because if anything was going to go on, like they would probably tell me, you know?
Yeah.
So
there's some safety and comfort in that.
Yeah. So I drive him to the airport and we say our goodbyes. So then fast forward to about a month and a half in, up until that point, he had made due on all his promises. He had called me every night. We would catch up for hours. He'd send me photos. He was really making sure that I was confident and wasn't upset. Overall, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And he was a big part of making sure of that because he really did. He was very consistent.
He put the work in.
Oh, he did. He really, really did. So that made me very happy. So about a month and a half in, I'm ready for my visit. He books me this trip down and I'm going to be there for about 2 weeks with him. I go to the show for the first time and it was a legend structure. So it wasn't just him, but it was like Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, and like a bunch of different acts.
I've seen
one of like those. Tina Turner. And then like Elvis would close out the show. So it was really cool to see him, you know, kind of getting like when you're an Elvis impersonator, that's about the biggest, you've made it if that's the job you're doing, you know, like that's about the tip top you can do. So I was really excited, really proud that we've gotten this far and that this is a potential future for him. And so I meet everybody there. Everybody seems really cool. Everyone says all he did was talk about me and couldn't wait for me to come. So again, more confidence.
Reassurance, yeah.
Exactly. It was nice to hear. So while I'm there, I find out that they want to keep him long term.
Oh.
They don't want him to leave after the 3 months. It's going great. They're happy and they want to keep him longer. So I'm a little shocked, but not surprised because he was really good at what he did.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe this would be the outcome anyway. But I'm also a little nervous because I'm like, well, where do I fit into this? Like, how is he going to breach this subject? Like, are we going to break up? Are we going to move here? How's this going to work? So after we had this conversation together, we were in the grocery store and he goes, can you see yourself living here? Like, do you think we should do this? And I was like, you know what? I 100% think we should do this. I support you. I think this is a huge opportunity. Sure, I love my job back home, but I've always wanted to move away and live elsewhere and experience life in other places. So I was really down for it, honestly. It was a new, exciting thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, so we both made the decision that we're going to come back to Toronto. We're going to pack up everything, put some stuff into storage, and we're gonna get work visas going. We're gonna make it happen, and off we're gonna go. So we get rid of everything. I quit my job. I become his manager, makeup artist, costume person.
Wow.
I just dedicated full time my life to him and his career.
Was he making enough money to support you both?
He was at that time. It was pretty good. And it wasn't a ton, but it was worth the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like it was,
It's romantic. Like romanticizing that. I fall victim to it because my boyfriend and I are in LA and the arts and we're like, oh, it's fun, like La La Land. And it's like,
exactly.
You can get a little too caught up in that.
You can. And I think I definitely did. Because I just thought, oh my God, look at our life. Look what we get to do. And I'm so proud. I just felt so successful, even though we weren't rich and we weren't making a lot of money. But when you're so happy and you feel so at home in your life and the life you're creating, that's enough. You know, like you're good. So from the moment I made the move with him and we were there on a more permanent level, it was like something in me, like I was like, I'm home. Like this is. I've never felt more secure, happy. I was like, this is our destiny. This is what we're meant to do, you know? So things were going along really well at first. We had this great apartment that we loved. We were having so much fun. We were meeting all sorts of new people and it was really fun until little things started happening at the theater. And at first I sort of chalked them up to like showbiz people are a little quirky. A little weird sometimes, you know, producers, managers, theater owners, things like that. You hear things, and especially in the world of impersonators, it's a little bit different than
I'm like,
it
what
attracts.
did they do?
What happened? Who said what and what happened?
So the theater owners, we came to find out, were next level crazy. They would ban people from the shows if they didn't like them. They would physically throw people out of the theater. They would fire people randomly. The theater owner's daughter, Nancy, she would try to get together with all of the male impersonators. And if
Sure.
they did not reciprocate, her father, who was the theater owner, would fire them. So if she set her sights on you, you were done.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's
And it started,
horrible.
oh gosh. And
The
it
fact that
started
the
to get
dad
really
was like
scary.
supportive of that of his daughter. Like,
Right? Oh yeah, he was right in there. The whole
So she
family.
tried to get with Peter.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think so. I don't know for sure, but that now looking back on those times, because she came gunning for us so hard, I definitely think that was a situation. I was like, something seems a little weird, but I knew how she acts and I knew how she was, that I was like, it's just her. Like, it's
yeah.
not Peter. He's not interested. I could tell he was super put off by her, by the way he behaved anyway.
Because she's crazy as a bed bug.
Exactly. And everybody knew it and everyone talked about it. And especially all the male performers talked about it with each other. So I was
that
like,
made you feel
oh,
confident that everyone's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
it did, right? So even though I knew it was like, this is weird, I was like, okay, I'm here now, so it should be okay.
yeah.
So yeah, just really crazy in that way, and very emotionally abusive. Like, they'd call up staff members and berate them on the phone, and they would always tell Peter that if he didn't win a certain competition, he was embarrassing to
Oh
them and
no.
the theater, and really putting him down. And I could see it was starting to wear on a lot of the employees, and a lot of people that we became really close with, that are like family to me, lost their jobs. And it was getting really scary, because like this dream that started off so
It was a
perfect,
nightmare.
it was like walking on eggshells. Like, at any minute,
Aw,
it could all blow up and we could lose this.
damn.
So the two of us, it was a bit tense. Like, we never really fought with each other. We never really took anything out on each other. We got along always so well. We never argued. We never raised our voices. We were always just so in sync. But because this was so intense and it was scary, and we just never knew what was going to happen day by day, we definitely were on edge. And I could sense his discomfort. But at one point, they found out I was hanging out with somebody in town that they didn't like.
Okay.
So
You can do
they
what you want.
banned me
Jeez,
from coming
Louise.
to the theater when they found that out.
Oh my God.
So, yeah. So that was really hard, because that, of course, made him feel awkward. Like, now he's in this really terrible position.
Right.
So I felt for him, but at the same time, he never really, like, he didn't stand up for me either. And I was kind of confused by that.
He was afraid to lose his job, probably.
And that was it. And I did tell myself that, like, they're being mean to his girlfriend, but at the same time,
This is his job.
he
They're
wants
paying.
it badly. And
Yeah.
maybe he thinks it'll blow over.
Yeah.
And,
I could see that. I could see both. Yeah, I could see that.
Or it's just like, let's just ride it out, not make any waves.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Exactly. So I let it go, and he just continued to go in there night after night, despite them being terrible to him, putting him down, talking badly about me to him, about his friends to him, like, just you name it. And I could see it was really wearing on him, because he was getting harder and harder for him to get ready and go.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just getting more depressed. Family's getting concerned about what's happening with us. And we're just not really knowing, like, where we're going to go from here. And it gets so bad. One day he gets an email from them saying what a terrible girlfriend I am, that I'm a sabotager, that I'm going to ruin his career in life, like, just weird stuff. And I'm like, why are they targeting me? I don't understand.
You didn't do anything. And even if
No,
you did, that's still like not
I
their
know.
place.
Just calling me controlling, which I thought was mind blowing, because I'm like, man, I've given up absolutely everything in my life, everything, the modeling, the makeup, literally everything, my possessions, my home, my family, everything, to allow him to have a shot at this job. So I couldn't understand where they got this idea that I was like this unsupportive partner.
Mm-hmm.
For them to describe me in such a way that just like, it was so hurtful. And it was right then that we both snapped. And he finally did put his foot down and was like, look, like you cannot speak to my person this way. We've given up so much for you guys. We've left everything behind. I'm always a
How
good
long had he been
employee.
there at this point?
This was about a year
Okay.
at this point. He's like, I come, I do my job. That should be enough, you know? And they weren't having it and they fired him that day.
Oh no.
So that was really hard because then it hit me not only just the frustration of him losing his job and everything, but now we're going to lose this place that we've made our home.
Mm-hmm.
And it was devastating. You know, I was so afraid to walk away from there because I'd never felt so good. And I didn't want to come back to Toronto and restart again, you know, like we were getting somewhere and it just felt so defeating. And so unfortunately that's what we did have to do because we were associated with those people and everyone in town knew those people. They didn't want to hire anyone that had been recently associated with those people because of what came with them, like harassment, all sorts of stuff. So we couldn't get new work permits because there was no one really willing to sign those. To kind of go to bat for us and have to deal with it. So we were forced back here, starting off with nothing. We had to move in with my grandparents and that was really hard.
That must have taken a hit on your ego and your pride.
It did. And I really noticed it on him for sure. He changed for a while. Just a very defeated man. You know, I could tell that he felt that he put so much work into this. And just because of such petty stuff, it was all gone. And I really felt for him. Like I felt for myself too, but more him.
Was he there for you?
Yeah. Not in the same way, definitely, that I was for him. You know, this is more so when I realized that he was a little selfish, not maliciously so, I would always say, but just definitely like, why me? One of the things he loved to say was, when is it my turn? When does my ship come in? You know, I'd hear that so often. It got to the point where I kind of subscribed to it. I was like, yeah, why not him? Like, he's so great and it's not fair. And my pain was more about him than my own.
That's a good way to put that, where you like tie your...
Yeah. So I went and got my old makeup job back and he went and got his desk job back. And we just kind of resumed back into normal life, but it was harder this time because it was like we were resentful. So every day was a bit of a struggle for quite some time because it just wasn't the box we wanted to fit in anymore. We'd experienced this amazing thing and we knew that that's what we wanted. So to adjust back was just, it seemed impossible. So the holidays come up and I'm determined to make them good and just be positive about it. And we end up going to visit. Actually, within this time, I got connected with my birth father.
Oh,
and
wow.
We talked a little back and forth and we'd seen each other briefly back and forth. It was never anything close knit, but we would talk on holidays, birthdays, Christmas, that kind of thing. We had a fairly okay relationship. So
you sought him out or he found you?
I sought him out, actually. Just out of curiosity more than anything, just, knowing about where you come from. And I didn't expect a relationship of any kind, but I felt that in my late 20s, it was time to at least just tackle that. And so at Christmas, I thought, you know what, we'll go over there and we'll sit with him for a little bit. So we go over and me and Peter just sitting on the couch, just hanging out and talking. And he shows me something on his phone. Peter goes to show me something on his phone. And I see a picture of a woman with her boobs out. It was that random, that quick. And I was like I didn't even know what to say.
Also, like in your father's home now. Like
Exactly.
Louise.
So I'm sort of panicking because I'm like, well, what do we do? I'm not just going to keep sitting here,
Oh my gosh, your heart must have been out of the room, like running away. That's crazy.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And after everything we've been through and we've gotten over and everything, and just like, and this perfect relationship, like literally perfect, I was like it was so random and strange in that moment. I didn't know how to react. And I'm not an angry person. I'm non-confrontational, but I felt my face just get so hot and red. And I was like, show me that photo. Go back and you show me that photo. Because as soon as he knew that I saw it, of course, he like flicked his phone off, you know?
Oh, no.
He's like, it's an ad. It's a pop. I'm hacked.
Exactly. He's like, what do you mean? What photo?
Oh,
And I'm like, no. I was like,
okay.
show me the photo right now. I was and I was trying to do it somewhat discreetly because my dad's like sitting on the couch over there. So I'm trying to not really freak out. So he sort of starts, he's like, it's nothing. He slowly starts going through his camera roll until he comes across it. And I'm like, delete it now.
Delete it. No, we keep
And
it
he's
evident.
Yeah, who is it?
And he's like, oh, okay. And so he deletes it. And I'm like, okay, we're going to go. Like, we need to go. So we say our goodbyes. We get in the car. And the tables turn a little bit. Like, he starts getting mad at me.
Oh, here we go. Oh boy, were you not in love with this guy for a while? And
this boob pic. Oh, my boyfriend, he listens to every episode. He's very supportive. We were at the top of his Spotify Wrapped, and he knew that we needed to be. But I find any kind of bank, like, I am ready to go. I'm ready to go, guys, next week. Next week is a lot. Elvis is breaking my heart.
We'll do the dogfish debrief after next week's episode. Hannah's face is like, she is grossed out by it. But this one is one of those ones where it's like, oh, this is such a great story. Like, this guy is so wonderful. Like, why is he on this show? I don't understand.
But don't you love Kylie?
I do. I really do love Kylie. I just love how she kind of paints this picture of perfection.
She's doing everything right.
Yeah.
Also, she looked into him. She met his people.
Yeah, and
she's supportive.
She liked him, and because she had come from a kind of a crappy relationship, and then she finally finds this guy. So we're excited to share what happens next week. In the meantime, send us your stories if you want to use the Dating Detectives platform for a voice. If you need a voice, send us your story. You can email us.
Investigate at thedatingdetectivespodcast.com.
Yay! And I would like to hear you guys' predictions. What happens? Why is Kylie telling the story about Peter on our podcast? What do you guys think? So weigh in on our socials, Dating Detectives Podcast on Instagram and TikTok and all the things.
Or write us on Patreon if you're on Patreon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Don't forget to join the Patreon and you get a couple bonus episodes a month. And
I mean, if you have an Elvis impersonator story, I want that too. Because I don't trust any of them anymore.
Yeah. I want to know.
If you're a good Elvis impersonator, let us know.
Are you in the Elvis world?
Yeah, is it really this? Okay, we'll find out.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, as always,
trust your femme tuition.
Love you guys.